Good evening. My name is Frank Allen. I'll be your host this evening on Targeted Massachusetts, Stars International, and the tapes are rolling.
You got any coffee over there?
I just made some. Why? I'll ship it in through the mic.
Okay.
So how is everybody feeling?
Better now that you're on.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Well, we'll be on.
I'm okay over here.
Hey, Angel, how you doing? I missed you.
Doing good. Yeah, I didn't sign on Wednesday. Everything's okay though.
Oh, that's good. Did you have a bad day?
No, I kind of something came up and I didn't sign back on after around midnight, so just decided to sleep.
Okay. Oh, that's cool. A lot of stuff's going on in the community. We're getting closer and closer together all the time to starting groups. Any of you who have not heard yet, Stars International will have its first meeting in Arlington at the Rollins Library, and I will send out directions if necessary. As a matter of fact, I probably will anyway, so that everybody knows where it is. Yeah, I hate to see people getting lost. But now with Google Maps, all you got to do is punch in the address and you're there. Which brings up part of what I was going to talk about. It's actually open mic night, which is Friday. And that means that anybody that wants to get up and take the floor and speak, please do so. I'd like to introduce Ryan Robert this evening. He's a brand new TI. He just signed into our site and he is looking for answers to questions. So I am looking to him a little bit if he'd like to speak. If he will ask the questions or put them in the chat, I will do my best along with everyone else to answer your questions.
What's his name?
His name is Ryan Robert.
Okay. Thank you.
His last name is his secret.
Thank you.
Certainly. And once again, welcome, Ryan. I hope that you can make it to the meeting on the 21st. It'll be from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., as I've said, at the Rollins Public Library in Arlington. A very beautiful, prestigious place. Very nice. Okay, Ryan, if you don't have a microphone. Okay, all right. Because if you're muted, it's very easy. All you do is look at the orange microphone and click on it, and you'll be live. I guess he's still unable. Yeah, he's definitely out. So, to go with Google Maps, I'm going right back to my original idea on how they targeted us. And if you look at Google Maps, it's a perfect example. You'll see that little blue dot. If you carry your iPhone or Android phone around the house, you'll see that blue dot following you around the house, as it should. And the radius is, according to Richard Lighthouse, is 5 feet. So within a 5-foot diameter, it is quite easy for a perp to track you from that particular point. Now, what still baffles me is if there are as many people as you can put in that 5-foot perimeter area, how are you still distinguished from the others, and you are the only one that picks up the V2K, and you are the only one that gets the attacks? Why isn't anyone else? You could probably put 10 people in this 5-foot area. So why aren't any of them getting hit? So I think that too much attention has been drawn away from microchips, which are, I might add, nanotechnology. They are full of nanotechnology. The computer that some say is used is controlled by light commands. And 3 years ago, the smallest one fit on the side of a nickel, a fully functional, very powerful, multifaceted computer. So I think personally, from my experience and what I see on my x-rays, is that there are chips, possibly multiple chips. And these chips are either installed, like myself, a sinus operation, an ear operation, teeth. Some of these are so small that they can be dropped into a tooth. And sometimes you don't realize how actually deep your teeth are. But one of these can fit from the top down inside one of the roots, especially if it's a root canal they're doing. So in pre-manufactured teeth that are manufactured actually to fit you, that actually snap in on a post, could come through with factory installed chips. Now, I see a lot of new tracking stuff coming out. There's stuff that you can buy very inexpensively on eBay. Click the on button and just throw it underneath your buddy's seat, and you know where he is all the time. I just saw that. It was an ad. Requires no batteries. It picks up its recharge from the air in the same manner that these microchips do. That's why many people ask, like their automobiles, they have a chip that's inside the key. How does this work? Okay, well, this chip inside the key stays hot or alive in the same manner in which the chips inside that little glass tube that you see so much of are energized. And I'm not going to get too technical because some people become very easily bored by it. But the reasoning and actually the actual layout is there is a small copper coil inside the chip, and connected to that there is a capacitor. The positive side of the capacitor going to the micro board that's in there, computer, tracking chip, whatever. The negative side going back to the capacitor, because that's the way it has to work. Well, pardon me, back to the coil, I'm sorry. The capacitor is actually in line on the positive side. And this coil charges that capacitor. And any of you who are not familiar with a capacitor, it's like a battery, if you will. It fills up to a certain voltage, and then that voltage is spilled. Now, it can be done very rapidly, or it can be done very slowly if run through a resistor or a voltage regulator or a silicon diode rectifier, if they did in fact want to change the voltage. But that's how they operate. Now, how they actually operate on the brain is the next question, and I'll try and answer that briefly. They emit and receive radio waves. So there's obviously a communicative part of the chip which communicates with the perps, and there is another part of the chip which broadcasts ELF, or extra low frequency, that they match with your own brain waves. And that's not too hard to understand. That's what I believe tracks you in that 5-foot circle with 10 people in it. Does anybody want to comment on that or give their opinion? Okay, well, I'll continue then. So, back, I think, last year, a number of chips kept turning up that had been taken out of TIs, and the numbers on them reflected numbers back at, we'll say, the factory or the producer of the chip, that these were supposed to be thrown away because they were supposedly bad, but they were in fact shipped in groups to people that install them. And I'm trying to watch the chat here a little bit. Yeah, Ryan's starting to get into the chat a little bit and starting to learn a few things, which is great. Many people that do, and their end is doing something like I'm doing, or doing something like Terry is doing, where he's actually out in the field, passing out flyers, shaking hands. So there are very many different capacities that you can actually do to help the movement, which is what we all want. That's the only way we're going to end this, and that's as if we all stick together 100%. Okay, in about 15 minutes, I'm going to be real tired of talking, so somebody better pipe up. Yeah, I've got kind of like, not a sore throat, but working on talking too much, because I'm actually doing a show every other day now, because we're getting to that point of spring, and we want to get ready for all the various meetings that we'll have. And this is what the meeting in Boston is all about. It's to set the pace for early spring and summer, so that we can start to plan events. I think that I will bring the audio spotlight to see if we can attract some attention with that. And this meeting will be followed by other meetings, and they will be in turn closer to other members. So this is kind of a jaunt for me too. It's not that bad, but it's not that good. But it was a location that one of our members from Maine will have a less of a problem getting to. We have people in other towns on the North Shore, such as Peabody. There's 2 people in Peabody. We have a guy named Bill, and he's in Boston. So it's going to make it easier for some of these people in that area. The next concentration will probably be people that are in, we'll say, central to western Massachusetts, and or completely out of state and jump to Rhode Island to a city. I have no objection to that. In Connecticut, we have a number of TIs as well. So the Northeast is peppered with TIs. It's just that we are so far apart from each other. There is one TI. Her name is Lorraine. Since she mentions it, I will use it. She lives not too far from me. There's another TI, Sally Ann. She is north of me, probably close to the Brockton line, because you have to actually go through Brockton to get to her town. And let me see. We have a brand new TI who actually came to the call. I have her phone number, and I have texted her for calls, but she seems to be either in the audience listening, or she has chosen to stick with the groups, like we'll say on Facebook, and learn from there, and then maybe come to the calls. A lot of people sit and listen for years on the calls without any responses at all. I know one TI had a bad experience with a moderator, and she left the calls for years, I guess, or at least a year. And she finally came back and joined our call. And there, right now, all the moderators are, from what I can see, they're all pretty much top shelf. Ella presents a very, very nice call, as does Linda and Derek. So we're all pulling as one, and that's what we're trying to achieve. One. I'd like to see one group centrally located that actually will be like our own country. But that's going to take some time. Right now, groups are fine, because there's a whole ton of us we have to find. We got to start leaving flyers in or around the grounds of state hospitals, so that if somebody sees it, perhaps they can get in touch with us, because there are, I believe, a third of us in state hospitals, and a third of us who just don't know or haven't found us yet. And I'll tell you, it's really difficult. It doesn't seem that way for us because we've been in it so long. But for some of these new people, to actually dig this up, it's not that easy as you think. That's why we're hoping more media, mainstream media, is going to come forward and start telling the story. Now, that's just begun. We have mixed reviews on Wired Magazine's article. Part of it was good. Most of it was not so good. She could not commit, probably by way of her editor, to put into words exactly what she wanted to say. Her editor probably took it to the cutting room, and most of it was on the cutting room floor. But we don't know about that. But she participated outside in the audio spotlight demonstration. So she's well aware of how this can be transported. They were 40, 50, and 60 yards out and picking up this signal, and they were in total disbelief. In fact, they come in from there and they were basically giddy. And inside is not a good place to test it because it actually hurts people. The sound pings around the room and ends up right in somebody's ear. And a lot of people were getting extremely annoyed with it when we tried to test it inside. But outside, it's a dream. Everybody can stand at different intervals and pick up the sound. Now, my idea is the first one we're going to do is probably, I would say, plazas, malls, strip malls, any place where we can actually get some attention and we have electricity. And the second place will be local police departments in, like, we'll say each of your towns, and we'll prearrange and have an officer standing out front, and we'll try to be like 100 yards away and hit him with this beam, and he'll be able to actually hear, and nobody standing next to him will. The only problem with AS is the beam isn't as narrow as we would like it to be. I'm going to do some research and see if any components can be replaced to make this more of a narrow beam. Because I was hit with the thing, and it acts really strange when you actually get hit by it. It makes you immediately reminiscent of what's going on. That's why it's the perfect demonstration. The second demonstration that I'm going to bring, we only have 2 hours, so we'll probably move very rapidly. Depending upon what people bring up for ideas, we may not get to demonstrate any of that at all, because voiced opinion it takes precedence over all, because we're there actually to speak. But these components will be there if we have some extra time. Now at 4 o'clock, when the meeting concludes, there's several restaurants in the area, and there's one that's almost right across the street. And I think we'll sit down and have a meal and continue to talk about what we can do. Any comments on that? Okay. Does anybody out there want to contribute anything about their targeting, that they haven't, something new, or something new in the way of stalking, gang stalking? Okay. Well, we've had a lot of different versions of gang stalking that unfortunately I have not experienced myself. I still may experience it. I'm not sure about that. I think I was briefly gang stalked in the beginning, and the basic reason was I was being attacked by this thing, and I didn't understand, as you don't, what was actually happening. And I got a real wake-up call, because I figured that I would, well, I'd get in my car and I'd go to a rest area, get away from the family, and probably sleep without this terrible ringing and the V2K. So I went to this rest area. It's on Route 3 here in Massachusetts. And I awoke to two people arguing. And the only problem was there wasn't anybody there to argue. So this was my first experience with V2K. In the beginning, there was a woman. Her name is Linda. I know exactly who she is and where she lives. The second is Mr. Michael Pierce, whom I know. The third is Mr. Robert, aka Rich Levine, which is Linda's boyfriend. And so I have mine pinned. I've been to court with Mr. Pierce already over an assault and battery issue, and it was continued without a finding, and that's when this started. But it actually began officially on October the 11th, the 15th, 2011. And the altercation between Mr. Pierce and myself took place on December the 27th, 2011. So that was just an aggravation. To them, they thought this was going to be wrapped up in a few days because they had just picked up this equipment or access to the website or whatever. So they didn't have any idea what the effect was going to be or how long it was going to take. But 6.5 years later, they are bullshit that they ever met me, number one. And they are also bullshit that they got involved and got addicted to this and cannot put it down. And these are words from them. Not particularly right now, because while I'm talking, that's the only time that I really can't hear them. So that's why this job isn't too bad sometimes. I don't have to listen to them. But that's the way.
Hey?
Yes.
Yeah, just one quick question. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I want to ask it. Do they know, do you know or have evidence, did they put you on the, what some of us call the federal program, or have they limited it to their own local?
It's not like there's a local cell, which is what I tend to call these separate units, but I think it might still apply. A cell is defined as a group of silent aggressors who tend to stay in one area, don't venture out. And they're waiting, in a military case, they're waiting to attack. But in this particular case, it just happens to be a label. So these people are not affiliated with government at all. They are affiliated with wherever the signal is coming from. And that's how I know that many of the TIs are actually assaulted from someone they knew or someone they still know. Because you can actually do something in life, say something to somebody, and if they're the wrong kind of person, they hold on to this forever. and they look for ways to get back at you.
Yeah, but I meant like if you, got in and drove all the way across the country, is the program following you all the way across, or is it mostly from these guys you know?
Well, I have driven, as you've said, to at least West Virginia, and it was still there. Same people, same program. I got put in the hospital in, I believe, Philadelphia. Yeah, PA, I'm pretty sure. Or was it Maryland? See, everything's pretty vague to me on that now, because that was a very bad time for me. But yeah, it follows you. There's no way you can move away from it. There's no way you can get away from it. There's no way you can go underground and get away from it. And I mean really underground. There's no way that's going to happen. So it has to be either blocked, stopped, or the people have to be apprehended. But from what I understand, I think that the signals are gradually going to be turned off everywhere as they are found.
Hey, Frank. During my whole targeting, I would say once it's changed twice in terms of people I hear all the time.
Yeah.
So I always hear different people involved, but I guess the regular. It was obvious to me that it changed once and probably changed twice or more. In the 12 years that I've been targeting. But it stays the same,
Yeah.
The tactic is the same, they want me to waste my time, sabotage my work. They seem to bother those around me, it seems like, So, I mean, if it would follow me somewhere, it bothers those around me,
Yeah.
I know for a fact that, obviously I can leave the country, right? And you would think that, say I'm in a country that speaks Spanish, right? I doubt people are going to be as receptive to you. One, they're not going to speak Spanish, right?
Right.
So it needs to be translated, So I guess the perps are, too dumb to realize that this is the government and they're just trying to hide it because they think it's going to save them. But I've traveled to different places, and it's still kind of up to the same thing. Making those, around me feel uncomfortable. So, they either, push me away or believe the slander and start rumors themselves, I guess, from, out of the blue. So
can I ask you a question? Do you think that it's
sure.
your own, well, I don't think that's the case, but I'll ask anyway. Do you think it's your own demeanor that is activating?
My demeanor helps me know who I am as a person. It's why I'm able to have it's why I've had the successes I've had in the past, because of who I am,
Actually, what I meant was your level of awareness is peaking, or at least mine is all the time.
Yeah, well, mine peaks in terms of the targeting. I can ignore it and not pay attention to it, and then other times I just feel it happening. Like I'm feeling myself being followed. I'm, how you get the feeling and how you say they're sitting on your head.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that happens to me, only sometimes, but when I feel like I'm being tracked, yeah, it's like I'm, carrying, an oppression blanket with me.
Yes.
That's why I feel it, and it makes me extremely uncomfortable, especially when I've ignored it you can say for like a couple months, and then it becomes obvious that they're watching me, especially when I'm doing anything for myself or for somebody else, like a favor. It tends to, it just gives me that feeling, and then I'm aware, like you say,
Right.
But yeah, my awareness is always it's always up when I look into this, just because of how many times I'm threatened. So my awareness stays up, all through V2K. It's never a person, in front of me, but it's always through V2K.
Yeah. Plus, you're dealing with your daily life. Plus, you're dealing with the V2K. So between the two of them,
Yeah,
your mind is occupied.
exactly. Yep. Yep.
So some people might seem like you're putting them off, but you're not really putting them off. It's just that you've had a moment of extremely intense V2K at the same time. So you actually missed what they said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. A lot of times I notice that happen to people I'm speaking with, I can say something and they don't understand the word I said, you know,
Yeah.
and I'm not speaking in cryptic tones, or anything like that. When it happens, and it's not really clear. And I think it's the same thing that happens to me if someone's talking to me, and then V2K comes, via their direction in their voice at the same time, you know. And then I just tend to just, ignore everything. I don't understand what they're saying, the V2K, or words that are coming out of their mouth. I don't find it intimidating or anything. It
No.
just, pisses me off to the point where, I need to get out the room. Um, but I've seen that reaction on people, where I tell them, and they don't get it at all. And it could be about anything. It doesn't have to be about targeting.
Right. Well, your experience and your experiences and mine seem to mirror uh, exactly. And I found a few other people that are probably in the same stage. And it's a very different understanding that you have because you are in the same phase, we'll say. I call this phase 4 because
Hmm.
the physical stuff has dropped off to a degree, and what you're getting is mostly mental harassment.
Yep. Hmm. And I never really got gang stalked with people per se. It was just, this, you can say the AI, tracking my location, giving me the feeling that I'm, basically being surveilled, or I'm feeling it on my own because I am, I can feel like my environment being messed with in my body. So, I can see they might have a certain person follow me over to the next store if I'm in the mall, but that's it. I dismiss that as paranoia, because it's nothing that can form a significant pattern when it comes to people. So it's usually all V2K gang stalking. Oh, we're in the supermarket, everyone's watching, or everyone's stuff like that, but not with people.
I just sent you something that was designed for Ryan, actually. He wanted a list or talk about the different stages. And I will say that the first stages are stemming from acute paranoia, acute anxiety, which are on the
Hmm.
same end of the stick, um, depression to a degree, because you are sharing this with, as far as you know, no one. So you're trying to figure this out and you're trying to understand. And at the same time, they have just dumped the mother load in terms of hypnotic effects. That's what I noticed. And you are made to believe many, many things. And I'd like to interject that hypnotism has been around 1,000 years, and it's very, very powerful. Suggestions are very, very powerful. If you go to our website, you'll see Zoe Sophia. She has, on the Psych Truth, she has a number of videos, and I have posted them all. I think I've missed like 2. I have to go back and get. But she goes through MK Ultra and how they would get somebody to go up to somebody and pull a trigger. And they actually, basically, they didn't demonstrate it physically, but she went through the motions.
I want to add something too. I think it sort of wants to create and then always have you loop back to, you know, some sort of PTSD, and you know, it wants to put you in a PTSD cycle, you know, where, you know, a certain feeling either overwhelmed you with, you know, fear or, you know, something like that, and then they'll, you know, that's how I think they get people to be even more susceptible to their suggestions, is, you know, keep them in a loop of PTSD, and it could be, you know, they don't want people knowing what they've done. It can also be a feeling that, you know, this technology puts over you, and then like you feel it and you know it's them, you know. Right. So you just kind of give in and, okay, I'll do what you want me to, you know. I mean, I never thought that way. You know, I mean, when they hit me with stuff like that, I just get angry, as a reaction, not as a result per se, you know. But I think it's always trying to bring me back to some, I mean, it'll go way back. If it, you know, if something as a kid traumatized me, it'll try to go back to it to, you know, to bring up, you know, that trauma or fear. And then I guess it's so I can ask them for a way out, you know. So then, okay, so you want a way out? Well, do this for us, you know. I think it's childish, and is wrong, because you're messing with people's minds, you know, and that's not good for anyone that they're around or themselves.
And do you give in, Angel? Just to give in and do what they want you to?
No. I one time spent 10 days listening, you know, consistently, without sort of fighting it like I always do. But I didn't do anything. I didn't even leave my house for that long. I mean, it you know, it's not like I did something and got in trouble. It was just, you know, they got me in a state where I'm like, okay, I'll be not submissive, but, you know, I guess more conform more with what they want, but nothing like, oh, go and do this or go and do that. No, nothing that serious, you know, with me physically. It was just kind of like listening.
Yeah, I see listening as far cry from giving in to, you know, what they want.
Exactly.
Yeah, psychologically, within us, there is still the 5-year-old. The 5-year-old that wants the candy bar is now the 5-year-old that wants the flashy car. But the 5-year-old is still alive within all of us, and that's what they work on. They want to work on the times where you messed up in the bathroom, and, you know, they just pick on this stupid stuff that still bothers some people, unfortunately. Some people still have some really seriously bad memories when they were little, and they work on those.
Yep.
But they particularly work on the human being. at age 5. Now, like, the human being at age 5, you're just learning things, so you don't know how to use the bathroom exactly the way you're supposed to, and so they go into the bathroom routine, and they go into all this other stuff. So it's just a whole conglomeration of 5-year-old attributes and responses, and they're relating some of your memories to things later in time or things around that time, trying to confuse memories. There's a lot of different things that are part of MK Ultra.
Yeah, it's like if they don't want you to connect with your own past,
Right.
And they hate it when it's kind of like they try to tell me this is how it is. This is why it's a no-brainer for me to fight this from the beginning when it started, because they'll try to tell me this is how it is, and it's like, yeah, no, it's not, and they get pissed. And I think it's ridiculous because they wanna treat you like if you're 5.
Yep.
They want you responsive and, I didn't know that, and then go ahead with it, and live your day like that. And I mean, I don't know, that to me that's just pretty. I don't get it. I don't understand why anyone would even play along with that, And I know some people do, and those are the ones that I really hate. The ones that are just playing along.
Yeah.
Without any regard to themselves, or anybody else, regardless if it's a child or not. And there's people actually, not empowered, but completely controlled by this technology as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm done.
All right. There's a woman that was on our call. I think it was Wednesday, and she is so taken by this that she thinks that Derek Robinson, Linda Costanzo, myself, and a couple of other people on the call are government agents, and we're all responsible for her targeting. And she left it a message on my phone, and it was so outrageous. So what I normally do when somebody attacks me verbally, or in the literary sense, I will post immediately exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I will post the tape and whatever other evidence that I have and present it to the community. And that's what I did.
Frank, that's the type of person you just mentioned. That's the very type that would then turn these weapons on other targets, like Allison getting targeted at the conference. It was another target that was convinced that she was the reason he was getting targeted.
Yeah, it's really sad because sometimes the subliminals actually join and this person gets taken over somehow. I think that, in fact, I know that, it's not going to happen to me because I can see all the stuff. If I can't see it, I can feel it. And if I'm not feeling it, I'm seeing it in a different way. So your thoughts?
I think it ends up being those who are completely intimidated.
Exactly. Knuckle under and you're done.
Yeah. And some people, unfortunately, when they become targeted at first, there is, an intimidation level that they feel. But I think it's pretty normal. I mean, who wouldn't be, given, I guess, what's going on. It can seem scary that you're being tracked, you're being watched, and no one believes you, and they might seem like they kind of know what's going on. it is pretty intimidating, but it's kind of like, the way I saw it is, hey, my life's on the line, and if they're gonna do something to me, then they're gonna do something to me while I'm doing what I like, not while I'm doing what they want. And that's how I'm was able to keep going in the direction I'm going.
Yeah, exactly. Uh, Alex just posted in there, always use logic if you can. That's very good because logic is the basis for everything. So it's just like the police. When they go through the academy and they become detectives, they are taught to abandon their emotions, and they have to look at a situation logically and react according to their protocols that they have been taught or the revisions that they have been taught. So somebody just wrote, what destroys emotion they're trying to invoke. Yes, he's correct about that. They want to take your angry and your violent side, if you have one, and they want to turn that inward on you and blow it up into a bomb and blow you apart with it. But it's not happening.
Are you willing to name names or alert us who this person is, so we could be on the lookout in case we were in the same conference or get together?
I've already named them. Oh, that person? Yes. Her name is Kelly Wallace.
Thank you.
Yep. And I think that she is severely possibly mentally ill, or from the beginning, which unfortunately sometimes targets are because they're an easy mark. And I feel really terrible about that because they're picking on people who are doing their best to try and make it through life and try and understand what's going on. And here they are being picked on by this force that they don't understand. And the thing that really gets me is I'm hearing more and more and more about children being affected by this. And that really burns my ass. I'll tell you, excuse me. It's not like me to swear, but I don't have a place to put that. There's no compartment I can put that in. It just makes me nuts when I hear about it.
Yeah. Frank?
Yes.
Hi, it's Melinda from Sherman Oaks, California.
Hi, Mel.
Sunny California. Let me turn down the air conditioning because I want to make sure I hear every word you say. Hold on.
The air conditioning. Okay.
Uh-huh. Anyway, sweetheart, now, is this the Kelly from Rhode Island? Same Kelly?
I am not sure about that.
Okay, no problem. That's a shame that she did it because we have a lot of people doing that with our moderators.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of like, the tree branches, which are us, are not being affected. So let's go after the trunk. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
exactly.
Let's get to the roots and really poison the big guys, the ones who are helping coordinate and blah, blah, blah. So I think it shows panic, and I don't think anybody buys it.
No.
But anyway, I'm going through, I have to go in for surgery next week. I have had to quit smoking, which of course makes me a bitch on wheels. And I went to a cardiologist this morning because there was a change in this valve or that. So I'm really fit to be tied. I really shouldn't be talking. But anyway, I did send you a video to get to Barbara Gillette. It was Richie from Boston. I don't know if you like Richie from Boston, but I do.
Okay, I'm not familiar with Richie from Boston.
Oh,
this is somebody new. This is somebody new.
Oh yeah, it's on YouTube, and
okay.
They want to get rid of him. He's a conservative. Now, forget the conservative liberal crap, because that's not what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with patriots and globalists. So he's more of a patriot. So you can put any kind of political leaning you want. But he's not a globalist. But anyway, he had a very telling thing about chemtrails, exactly what they do to our chemistry, especially being targeted. So, and he is now targeted. So it should be in your email. Frank.thearcher@gmail.com.
Frank.thearcher@gmail.com. Yep.
Yeah. I think it's Melfi and Proton. I think I sent Proton mail. That's my new email.
I seen a recent Richie from Boston video. He posted it in January of this year, and he connected chemtrails to mind control. And and at the end of the video, he even says, you know, this is one way that they can be doing it. But, you know, I mean, the pictures he's shown and, you know, basically how he put the pieces together. And he said you can be tracked because of this and all this other stuff. It was a pretty good video.
Yeah, it's just the beginning, I'm afraid. He went to Utah, and he had a flat tire. His axle fell out of his car. And I said, you know, Richie, I said, hello, my name is Melinda. I said, you sound like you're a targeted individual. They are doing everything they can to hamper this trip of yours. And as it turned out, he never did make it to California or Oregon. He had to turn around in Utah. But what he found, having to stay in Utah, was really worth the price of admission, if you know what I mean. You know, everything happens for a reason. He didn't make it to California, but his stay in Utah, he uncovered so much stuff. So it's always a reason for something.
Right.
Something doesn't turn out, look what did turn out for you, you know?
Right. Frank.
Yes, sir.
It's Alex, man. I just wanted to say hello. I'm online.
Okay, Alex. Caller 12. Are you trying to say something? You need to turn up a little bit.
We have 3 Alexes now. I wish they would differentiate themselves by an initial or middle name or something.
Well, one of them we can identify right away because he's...
With his accent, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He's very nice, too.
Yes. Okay, now we have...
My last initial C, I'm in North Carolina.
Oh, okay, Alex C, okay. And then the other Alex... This is Melinda. Then the other Alex is in San Francisco, Lafayette.
Melinda.
Yes.
You gave me your Facebook address, and I sent you a request, but I never heard from you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, Alex C.
Yeah.
North Carolina. Okay, let me go look. I'm sorry. I don't go on Facebook too much anymore.
Don't worry about it.
Okay, we have caller 12. If you would like to speak, unmute yourself by hitting *6. Know that you just said Monday through Friday something, but you're talking not over everyone else, but under everyone else. So there is a problem there. And someone is actually speaking under me somehow. I don't know how. Huh.
Oh, gosh.
That's a first.
I have 193 friend requests. Oh, my God. So, Alex, I'll have to do it I'm going to have to request you.
Yeah, don't worry.
Alex Penelus?
No.
Okay.
No, he's got a few buttons.
Okay, why don't you send an email to Frank and he'll give you my email address.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay,
that sounds good.
Cool. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Alex.
Certainly.
193, my goodness me.
Oh, I've got 1,100 friends. They're all TIs.
Well, these are friend requests. I don't even know these people.
Yeah.
Oh, he's cute. Oh, he's too young. Oh,
Anyway, to get, you want to continue, Mel, with anything?
No, just maybe if you could get that thing to Barbara Gillette.
Okay.
And yeah.
I can't do it right now because this
Well,
thing
that's okay,
is,
no problem. Now, do you think that Kelly is going to be continue to call in, or do you think she told her off with your email or your response?
I think that, you see, she called for, the sad thing is she called for help, and I called her back and spoke with her for a little while and tried to help her. And she got angry, I think, because she couldn't get through. Someone is really scratchy.
Yeah, there's a perp on the line, I think.
It's 14. I don't think. Okay. Caller 14, when you straighten, I think you got a bad wire or a bad jack. Give it a twist and see if that straightens it out. As soon as you do, just hit *6 and you can speak. Remute yourself when you get through speaking. That way we retain our bandwidth. Hi,
Oh,
Barbara.
also, Frank, one more thing about the children thing. A kid had a cell phone. She was with her mother, and I think she took my picture at UCLA. And I thought that poor kid with that mother, and they were giggling when they left the elevator. I got it, and made me very sad. I know what you're saying about the children. It makes me very sad to see them co-opted into criminality like this. Is that what you mean?
Criminality.
Criminality. Well, yeah, it's a crime.
Big
They're
crime.
doing to people.
Felony assault and battery, felony verbal assault, felony rape, felony, oh God, felony attempted murder, felony murder. Yeah, I mean, and add up the counts. How do you add up the counts?
They see so much on TV that's blood and guts, and this isn't blood and guts, so they don't think it's harmful. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes. No, somebody just put in the chat, Alex did, war crime. Okay, I've already
Of course it is.
sent letters to Geneva, Switzerland, but what I mentioned Wednesday evening was the World Court Complaint Form. It's there on our site in its entirety. If you see it, it's on the lower left in the document section. It's titled HRC. It's a human resources complaint or something like that. I've got it right here. Let me look. Let me see. Let me see. Oh, pardon me. Human Rights Council complaint procedure form. And the mailing address, you can either send it to the organizer there or United Nations office at Geneva 10, Switzerland. But it's the real deal, so I encourage you to get in touch with these people because they have a website too. If you'd like the website, I can give it to you now.
Okay.
Okay, it's http://. Now you have to use the www when you're dealing with Switzerland for some reason. So it's www.ochchr.org/EN, capital EN, both in caps, that's just for English, /HR bodies /HRC, those are all caps, /HRC index.aspx. And the email address, if you just want to drop them a line It's cp@ohchr.org. Did you get that, Mel?
No.
Okay, it's CP. In this case, over there, it's capital C, capital P, at ohchr.org. You want the phone number? No, actually, that's the fax number. There's a fax number here, too. Their country code is 41. But I have to fill that out and actually scan it because I'm going to email it and send it registered mail to see how many $1 million it is. Actually, it shouldn't be much. But
Frank, can I say something?
certainly.
Melinda, you mentioned my name. Was there any problem?
She just
This
wanted
is Barbara Gillette.
she just wanted me to transfer a video to you.
About what? Chemtrails?
I haven't looked at it yet. I haven't seen the email yet.
Oh, well, if it's about chemtrails, please don't send it. I don't care.
All right. Well, I can't really open too much unless I open it minimized because this program is screen over. It doesn't matter what comes up. It's over it.
Well, you know, I'm just not interested in chemtrails. I don't give a shit, to be honest with you. I don't. So I just wanted to mention to you, I went into Wired and I went to the write-up that they did on targeted individuals, and I left a comment.
Yeah. Very good.
It's too long to. The other night when I was on your call, I had mentioned it to several other people that they should go into that Wired and pick out the points that they want to dispute and make sure that they put comments down. And then tonight, Romola sent out a short video on the same thing, that she says people should go to Wire and dispute a lot of things of what they're saying. And then she was talking about Steve Shellen. He has a Steve Shellen News or something that's new. And to support him, give him support if anybody's interested. And so I wrote a comment, and I thought it was pretty good. So I suggest everybody do the same. Just,
Okay. If you don't want to leave a comment.
Wherever they come out with this stuff that you dispute, make sure that you mention it to them. I started mine off with I believe that Wired missed a wonderful opportunity and a big disservice, something like this, to the country as far as telling the country the truth of what's going on. I didn't say it exactly like that. I said it much better in my comment. So if you want to go read it, please do.
Okay, if you're perusing our site, if you go to news, the Wired article is there. Obviously, you can't leave comments, but twice now I've clicked on links to the Wired write-up, and twice it wasn't there. So I don't know whether they were making small edits and putting it back or what the story is.
What do you mean? You couldn't put it on your site?
It's on my site, our site, not my site.
Oh, but you couldn't comment? Is that what you
can't comment. I'm adding a blog page so that you will be able to comment, but at this particular point in time, it's just the news article.
Oh,
So if
yeah.
anybody wants
Okay.
to look at it and is not interested in posting comments, that's the place to go, because that's the original copy before it was edited.
Oh, it was edited? By who? By them?
Well, yeah.
What do you mean? Oh, yeah. Why was
No
it?
one else has the authority to edit that. You can't change a word of it or you're in serious trouble.
So this was a pre-edit, a version you have.
Yeah.
So what did they do to edit it?
That was an assumption, Barb. If they did any editing, I have the original. That was my statement.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay. All right. I thought they did edit it. Okay. Well, anyway, I pretty much let her know how I felt about her article and some facts that I think that she would find extremely interesting.
Yes, it's her editor, I believe, Barb. I don't believe it's her, because I spoke with her, not at length, but briefly, enough to see that she was very interested and believed something. I'll tell you that straight up.
Yeah.
People don't come from across the country to attend an event and for nothing. Some people went to great expense to get there.
So who's her editor? Which one is it?
I have no idea.
She just said her editor did it.
No. Anytime you work for a news agency like the Boston Globe or the Old Record American or whatever it is, you have an editor that will
Right.
either deny the whole thing going into the paper or will omit parts and then say, okay, put this in. And that's the way it goes. So I don't know who her editor is. I don't care. But he's a jerk. It's probably
So
not
you
her.
think it was their editor that did that and not her?
Yes.
That's my position. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, that's how it works. When
Well,
you write
I
an article
understand
for
that, but
magazines, so either
right.
the owner or the editor is going to give it a yay or nay. So
I
it doesn't
understand
matter
that.
what your beliefs are or what your opinions are. I'm just wondering, did you see the email sent out by Allison
Yes, I did.
recently?
Recently,
Yeah, she listed the articles that she gave to the author
I
to
didn't
look
get that.
at.
I understand about the editor and how they do it, but sometimes if they want to write a article, the editor won't touch it as it is. So I just wanted
but
to know
not in a big
who
magazine
wrote it.
like that.
What?
Not in a big magazine like that. When you submit it, it goes through editors and they say yay or nay, and then they dress it up how they want it.
it has to pass protocol because the magazine has things that it cannot print by way of their own rules.
Oh, I didn't think your article was that controversial. I really didn't. I thought it was pretty bland.
Well, it might be bland to us, okay, but to the average reader, it is something quite different.
Well, I still think she did a big disservice to the country, whether it was her or her editor. I don't really care. But that's basically what I told her. And I explained to her what our position was. I explained to her about anchoring and plausible deniability and death by 1,000 cuts and how it works. And I also explained to her, told them to go to the YouTube video that Bill Binney did with MIT and ACLU, which explains exactly how this program is global and how it will continue to be global. When I saw that, I was smacked right between the eyes because I said to myself, this is going to continue. This is like a snake continuing.
There's
And
two
it's
meanings
gonna
for the word
keep
global.
going.
You'd have to ask him, or you heard the context. Global can mean the entire country. Global can mean the entire world. Global can mean the entire computer system in one building. So that's a generality.
Well, I
Hey,
meant it globally, the whole world, because the intelligence agencies are infiltrating intelligence agencies of other countries, and they're doing it in a benign way to that country when it's not benign. And they're probably having those intelligent companies doing the data mining for NSA.
Okay,
NSA doesn't have to do anything. They
Yeah.
just have to tell the other intelligence agencies, listen, you want information we got? Well, give us this info back.
Yeah.
Hi, Frank. How are you?
Very good. How you doing?
Okay. Not good, but, not bad, but okay.
Yeah,
Hanging in.
Susan, we haven't heard from you for a while.
Well, sometimes I just got other things I got to do. But,
Oh, yeah,
I
for
was
sure.
on, yeah, it has to be that way sometimes. I was on the call, I think it was Ella's call, when this woman started talking about the papers, Snowden papers,
Yeah.
and it's recent. Yeah, I asked Ella, and she emailed it to me, and for crying out loud, it got deleted in my emails. So I'm going to have to ask her again, unless anybody has it. Frank, do you have it?
I have it. I'll send it to you.
Okay, because I'd like to go over it. I'm sure does anybody read it already?
Susie Dawson has it on YouTube. She has a whole bunch of videos called Decipher You. I think I sent this to you before, and I mentioned this on this call before. Yes, I did. And it's called Decipher, DECIPHER, You. And she goes through all Snowden papers.
Yeah, we're familiar.
Right, okay. Well, evidently Susan isn't, so.
Yeah, I didn't get it. I have other things to do, but I'm going to have to take a look because I think he's up to date with everything since he took all the information.
You can also go into The Intercept, and Jeremy Scahill is also doing the same thing. He's going through the Snowden papers and deciphering them and writing them up. The last one I got from him was he said that there are 300 different intelligence programs.
Oh, that's nice.
I think that was it. Yeah,
Wonderful.
I'm sure I saved it. I can't remember if it was programs or 300 agencies that are working on this. I remember the number 300. I'll have to go dig it out.
All right,
and I'll
good.
send it to you.
Fine, let's move on.
Hey, Frank, I just wanted to say something about the article. I agree with you. It must have been the editor.
Yeah.
That cut it out. I mean, speaking with her, she didn't know, the one who wrote it at the conference, she didn't know if, whatever she wrote would be published, right? And think about, the stuff that's been revealed recently with Cuba and then the article coming out. The weird thing is, it's a tech magazine. It's a technology magazine, and that article did not cover anything about technology. So why would they put it in there in the first place? just to please, whoever wrote it. I don't think so. I mean, I think the article was probably bigger than it was, and they sliced it and diced it like you said,
Oh yeah.
and threw all the technology out, so it's not clear probably, what she got out of, the conference.
If you follow,
Angela,
you can see.
why are you so concerned about that? Why are you so concerned about one person writing something bad about? There's no V2K. Who cares? We
Oh,
could
I
move
don't,
on.
I
that was,
don't, I,
that was a
the stuff in
review.
the,
Oh, go ahead, Angel.
no, I mean, I read the article. The stuff in the article, I don't think it's horrible. It just, I don't even think it's bad. It's just an outside perspective of either what they chose to believe or not. But reading it,
Susan,
there's clues in there
Angel,
that you can't deny as a target.
Bob,
It's
Angel's
just,
talking.
Susan, this was, wait a minute.
No,
Susan,
wait a
this
minute.
was the
You
woman that
interrupted.
went to the conference. She was at our targeted individual conference, the first one that Allison did. This was the media that went there, and that was a write-up on it. Sorry, Frank.
Oh, that's why there's a big deal about it. Well,
Right.
I wouldn't let these people in then, the next meeting in Massachusetts. I wouldn't let them in.
Okay.
If they're going to be doing that, that's what I would do. Get out. It's a known fact because the military used it in Afghanistan, if I'm not correct with the place. The voice of God. That's all Duncan ever says in his lectures. How could she deny it? So, it's bullshit.
Yeah, they used that on the Iraqi soldiers. That's how they got them to lay down their arms mysteriously. Remember sitting down back in 1991, wondering why a full contingent of Iraqi soldiers simultaneously laid down their arms? That's unheard of.
May I say something though?
Yes.
My money's on that this Laura Yan that wrote this article for Wired. I'm betting she did. I wouldn't be surprised if she didn't even know about that Iraqi incident.
I think that Allison gave her material to research prior to the conference. She also mentioned in the article that she had spoken with others on the topic. So.
Yeah, but I mean the extent, like somebody just mentioned, Susan, whoever mentioned that the extent to which the military used it on people, I'm betting she's not in that knowledgeable camp.
No, I don't believe she is either. Most reporters that go on the scene of an event are learning themselves. Most of them don't go in with full knowledge of what's going on. It's a learning experience for them too. That's why they're there. They're there to learn and pass the information on. That's what a literary magazine is all about. That's what a magazine is. But I was very surprised that they weren't interested in the tech. They did participate in the AS test, so there was no write-up on that. And I think that's one of the things they cut because that's conclusive proof that you can transmit sound in that manner. So I would have to say that I noticed, if you read a lot of things, and I'm sure you do, you can tell when something comes to a halt in a paragraph and something is cut or added. You can just look at it and tell. There's spots in there where it just stops and it starts again with something totally different. So, it was all chopped up and probably all of it's on the floor, but it's in the past now. Those are two things that we have. The big things that we have are Cuba. The New York Times article with Dr. Duncan was a failure, and it was probably due to presentation. He tends to present in analytical terminology that most people do not understand. So, I sent an email to him telling him to please look out for the TIs. And that was meant to forget about yourself in the New York Times and how much of a big shot you're going to be. Don't forget the TIs, because he isn't one. I hope everybody knows that. So to me, he's not a whistleblower either. A whistleblower comes out, says all, and assumes the consequences. He has come out, said nothing, tried to make money off TIs with his gadget that didn't work. Amy Anderson called me up for help to get her $179 back. So, I mean, he is not a whistleblower. So what is he? What's he doing?
Boob.
What's he doing?
I always said he was a boob.
Yeah, well,
I read it, and in the beginning, the prefix.
Yeah.
He acknowledges, if you read between the lines, that he was being targeted so bad he was dying, and his mother and father stuck by him. I'm going from memory. His mother and father stuck by him, and one woman stuck by him. And if it wasn't, the book is dedicated to his mother and father, who helped him, and the woman who stood by him. A very good friend. So he was targeted.
Well, he says he's not targeted anymore.
Yeah. Well, that's what
right anymore.
He talks like he's been taken over.
I don't know. Don't ask me. I just know the book is pretty good. I had it put in the library here in my town. They accepted it. So I read it quite a few times. I think he was targeted. Maybe he's not now. He's targeted. He's targeted. Why would he go making up that thing for the V2K that don't work?
I would have tested. Well, I would have tested it on myself first. Don't you think that would have been prudent?
Yes. I think Carl, is his name Kyle? Kyle got one.
Yeah.
He bought one.
Don't tell me it works for him, right?
What did he get?
Oh, he said it didn't work.
Okay.
But Duncan is good to, what do you call it? Tweak it. Well, we'll see.
He was a test subject. Him and Ella were test subjects for Duncan. And I asked them both about it. They were working with him on some device.
Mike Mason was a test subject.
And I asked them, I asked Ella and Kyle about it, and they said, well, we can't tell you because it'll hurt the results. But I never heard anything more about it. Did anybody else?
All right, this is what I'm going to say about that, all right?
Mike Mason was part of it?
Yes, this is the way it is, okay? This targeting, I don't care what anyone says, okay? The electronic part of it is the same, okay? Period. And if it works on party A, it will work on party B because it works on signal suppression. It doesn't work on the individual. It works on the signal. So if somebody says, oh, this works for some people and it doesn't work for others, that's BS. I'm sorry. And
hey, Frank,
I agree.
Can I read something? And this is way back. I have it on paper. It's an official document, and it explains, I guess, the V2K.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Right. It's just a few lines. So this is directly from the patent. So a basic discovery incorporated in the system of our prior patent resides in the fact that modulated electromagnetic radio signals, right, when applied directly to the viable nerves of the facial system, can be converted to proper modulated electrical signals which create a sensation of hearing in human subjects. And that was written in 1964. That's when that patent was approved.
Angel, will you send that to me?
Can I put the link right here in the chat?
Is that the
Yeah, for
neurophone?
sure. Go ahead.
No, this is solid state hearing system.
That's the
Okay.
hearing for the, yeah, that's hearing. Because my friend Bonnie's mother, who's 93, she has a special hearing device. And she tells me, you see what you hear? I said, yes. She goes, I don't hear what you hear. I said, you don't? It was very hard for me. So she explained it. 93, she's explaining this to me. That's how smart she is. And it's $1,000 an ear. And it works, I guess it works on sound waves. But she doesn't hear what I hear. She hears it differently.
Well, what does she
Figure that
hear?
She hears sounds.
Okay.
Well,
People, we're
Go
heading,
something about these?
we're heading into the red here. I have to mute everybody, and you have to speak
Okay.
and then mute yourself. A couple people can talk back and forth. That's fine. But we head into the red, it cuts off, and that's it. So I'm going to mute everybody, and therefore we'll hopefully have some bandwidth. So, Angel, back to you.
I'm gonna post the link to the patent I was talking about, but shortly in the chat. But these hearing aids from way back, they basically use this type of technology, and it's clear within the patent that if you can't hear a sound, then this isn't gonna make you hear it because your brain's not ready to perceive that. It never perceived it, and that may be exactly what the 93-year-old woman was saying, but not in those terms. So she can't hear it. It doesn't help her hearing because she might not hear it the same way because her ears there might be something wrong with her and these patents explain that concept. It doesn't solve hearing, but if something is messed up, then it can aid that. But if another part of the ear is messed up, then it's not going to help at all.
Angel, do you recall me saying that video, that coffee shop background noises, it takes several minutes for you to adjust to it so that you can actually hear what's going on?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. It's the
I
same
remember that.
concept. It's you're being taught how to hear in a different way, to a degree. Okay, a very interesting patent. Electronic stimulator, July 12th, 1955. Ooh, that's right after the neurophone, or right around the same time. Alexander Sandow.
That patent there is how they basically transmit the frequencies.
Okay. This is very,
Yeah.
very old. I see spots for tubes here. You note the spots that come together, and there's two lines, a circle. Then there's a capacitor after that. The two lines are a capacitor. The round thing is actually a tube.
Yep. Okay. Yeah.
A lot of capacitors used. Oh.
If you look at the last page of the patent, there's a list of all the stuff used. It's pretty long, and it says the frequencies. They have to change it that much to manipulate it. If you look at the picture, there's 3 streams. One is consistent, the other one is basically the variable, and they use the third one to manipulate that second stream. And I guess to induce thought.
A very strange, looks like antenna. 2 transducer.
Yep, that's the picture. Yep, that's the picture. Yep, that's basically the end game. So get the inputs from the first page into that transducer. Yep.
United States Patent Office. Good patent.
Did you and check out the page where it's written? Look at who it's issued to. The Secretary, the United States, represented by the Secretary of the Navy.
Okay, let me run this. I'll say this right out. Okay, the Navy and the Air Force are the ones that are named in most of the patents. Did you find that out? Did you find that to be true?
Every certain number of times that it changes, I guess. I've found that, you know, when there's a significant change in the patent,
Yeah.
or an improvement, or then you notice it being taken over, and it the next patent, you know, related to that, it becomes owned by the government somehow.
Took 3
That's
years
what I've noticed.
to be approved.
A lot of these did. Mhm.
Angel, what does
Yeah.
it mean when it says that it something about the nerves in the face? What did it say to that?
Oh, those are free nerves. If you look up the patent that's mentioned in there, the one
Yeah.
prior to it, that explains free nerves that are on your face, that they can be, you know, they basically, those free nerves pick up, so imagine a nerve that can pick up three things. So the ones around your face can pick up sound, feeling, and probably even taste to carry to your brain, you know?
Okay.
So that's sort of, you know, free nerves, you know, so that they can, you know, you can call it like a central node in a way. So you know, three different type of senses can be carried through that free nerve. So it bypasses the physical, you know, the senses in the bottom, and it goes directly to the free nerve, you know, and into and you know, and up all the way through the auditory system.
And this is the 50s.
Yeah.
Holy
Oh yeah.
cow.
And all of these got invented basically investigating hearing aids and all investigating hearing aids and I guess stuff to aid the blind.
And potentiometers are actually just knobs. Some of them internal on a circuit board, some of them external. Resistors, okay, that's going to be common. Wow.
Thank you, Angel.
You're welcome.
Vacuum tubes. Wow. You know, to see this stuff in the 50s really is a mind blower, you know?
I agree. It's kind of like where did this knowledge go? It became hidden. You know, one time I mentioned that at some point the Radio Corporation of America took over these patents. You know, and I think it will, you know, as I continue researching, I'll see other stuff being taken over by, I guess, you know, either parts of the government or stuff that the government can easily hide behind, because it can control, like the media. So, you know, we all know the CIA aims to control the media, so it makes a lot of sense to me that, you know, the RCA would then, you know, take over these patents.
Right. I'm very impressed with that and the other ones you sent. I'm trying to hyperlink everything inside, and it's really a bummer. I mean, the first ones were hard, but these are different somehow. They're not like the first ones, but I'll get through it. But this one's going on next, just as is. I'll probably even use that link you have right there.
Yeah, these links are good. If you get it right, if you go in the link, you can search a new patent. For the old patents, that's why I wasn't really, I put this on hold until I was able to find the actual documents, and all this stuff is scanned in if you kind of look at it.
Yeah.
You know, they're all the real documents. They're not you know, like Google, that it's a cut and paste, and then sometimes I've noticed that they switch it. So, you know, the link, the information I gave you before, I said I got that from Google.
Yeah.
this stuff is not. This is from the USPTO.gov website, from one of their databases that searches old patents. And I was able to get my hands on actual, on these paper copies.
Oh, that's good. If we keep working the patents, we work our way back to the inventors, and then petition the inventors. We'll have the clowns.
Yeah, the patent I posted in the chat and I spoke about, he already died. I don't know who the second guy on the patent is, Joseph Lawrence.
Now,
but they're both, yeah.
Is that 2713120 the same one I'm looking at?
No.
That's a different one. All right. I'll save
Yeah,
it.
no. That's the one I sent you separately. Yeah, the one I'm talking about is the one I read from about 15 minutes ago.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the solid state hearing system, the 3156787.
All right. Well, I want to save that link too.
I can show you how to get these patents, at any time you want, Frank. And then you can explore anything. I mean, the good thing about searching in Google is that you can see what the patent cited to get to the patent, and which you can see in these sometimes, but you won't see what else cited it.
Okay.
Because obviously these are the original documents. So who would know? How would they know who cited the patent after it?
Right.
But in Google you can see that trail, and then it can lead you to older stuff or newer stuff, and it's the actual documents, not cut and paste. So, I use them both.
Yeah, that's a big link.
Yep.
From the patent office too.
Yeah.
Well, they've got a lot of them, differing by one word. Some of them.
Exactly, and I've noticed changes in technology as well. And this stuff goes way back to like the 30s, and then I can see how it developed based on tech and what patents went into what, and what's a hearing aid and what's used as auxiliary communications. That's even called out, and they'll even say this is for auxiliary communications. It's not. So it's pretty interesting. These patents get interesting.
Okay. Angel, you want to take the call for about 2 or 3 minutes?
Sure. You're gonna take a break?
Well, yeah. I don't smoke, but I do vape, so I definitely need the nicotine and a fresh cup of coffee.
Sure, I'll be here if anyone wants to share anything.
And Angel
feel free.
Angel's a very good authority on what's going on, and he's researching the patents and what's happening from the beginning. And it should be an interesting report when it's complete. I'll be right back.
I got a question for you, Angel.
Sure. What's up?
The Wired article, did you read it?
I did.
What did you think?
Well, I didn't think it was a horrible article. I actually thought it put in good place, I guess, the conference and what was accomplished there, not from a TI perspective, but basically that they wanted people to know that you're not alone, So she made that clear, in the article. So to me, it wasn't, I didn't see TIs looked at in a bad way in the article, but if she brought up the technological side, all she needed to do was ask the question, what do you think? And it would have, and then it would have been, it would have blown I would say even the Cuba stuff wide open with the recent article that came out some earlier this week about what the University of Michigan, I think it was. They said we created an eavesdropping device, and we just make the people think they're hearing music, but we're actually eavesdropping on them. And they said it was with dual pulses, like, you know, mixing in two different types of radio waves, you know. And they did that looking into the qubits. No, they didn't mention it, but yes, that's what kind of heterodyning is. But this is you know how all right, you know how you can look at a radio wave and it goes up and down, right? Like the cycle.
Right.
So two waves interact with the cycle, you know. So you'll have, so imagine they're in the same direction. When they mix up, you'll have a loop, like a DNA strand. You know what I'm talking about? At each point. Exactly. So what they're saying is you have that loop, and with a third radio signal, you can extract every interaction within that loop.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the patent that, you know, the patents that, you know, reading one, it won't be obvious, but you read a couple of them and you know that's what they're doing, you know, and you start understanding the pictures.
So they're extracting everything from the whole spiral? Is that what?
Yes, that's a way to look at it. Yes, but not the spiral of the DNA, but the spiral of the radio waves. Yes. So imagine radio waves, they're interconnecting if they're in the same direction and they're meant to interact with each other. There'll be different points, right, where it connects, you know, and the points in between the connection that would create the spiral, you know, that's where they can pull out everything that happened in between. And that's why when you read about these pulse modulations,
right,
they're crazy amounts. They say, like, you know, 1,000 times per second or more, you know. So they're creating a bunch of different points of intersection, and they all have to do with time. So it's you know,
pretty scary.
Scary in a way, but I'll tell you, the moment that it's figured out that this is going on, I think it can be stopped fairly quickly, because the culprits are spies and traitors, because nothing's good coming out of this. Mass shootings hasn't stopped. You know, terror attacks haven't stopped. And I mean, yeah, they're gonna try to blame it all on this country or that country. Well, it doesn't matter, because the country that's using it on itself or on its citizens isn't stopping anything. You know, they're creating, you know, you can say false flag attacks, you know, in-home terrorism, distractions from, you know, solving the problems that actually matter. So I think it can be stopped fairly quickly the moment, you know, the people in general actually see, you know, that this is being done, the way it is.
Well,
you know?
After the school shooting, the last one, I went on Twitter and I went on Facebook and I went on everywhere that I saw it. And I put in a blurb that this is a false flag, that the reason this is done is to make people give up their guns willingly. And the best way to do that is to kill your kids. And if you think they care about your kids, think again, they don't. And I just, day after day after day, I just went in, and I also ran into quite a few people who were thinking the same thing. I was surprised, you know.
Yeah, I mean, at times, I mean, they can drive people to go nuts. I mean, the sad part is that you know, adults are very hard to convince, you know, to tell them this is how the world is. Well, they're you know, their 20 years of life or 30 years of life or 40 years of life say otherwise. But, you know, when you're, you know, a teenager, it's kind of difficult to see that, you know, when you're learning about the world around you and you know, the place you want to take in it. it's pretty difficult to, you know, not let something like this control you, you know, when it can make other people believe, you know,
Well,
that
it's
they're okay
hard
with
to
it happening
convince,
to you.
it's
Angel,
hard to
it
convince
sounds like you.
people. Go ahead, Ann.
I'm sorry, Barbara. I was just going to say, Angel, it sounds like you'd make a great dad.
Yeah, maybe.
I think
That's
it's just
still,
hard to convince people that the government is capable of something so heinous, that they would actually manipulate socially engineering by the death of these children, which, if you think about it, the death of these children is the way that they can best do it, because that will bring out all the emotions in the parents and in the
exactly.
surviving children. I mean, this is what the Republicans did with abortion. Now, with abortion, rich women will always have safe abortions. And the reason they had abortion clinics were for women who were of a lesser financial status, poor, and who wanted them. And when the Republican Party first came out with this, they were like telling everybody they didn't want to pay for it, the money. They were talking all about the money, and they got nowhere. People didn't listen to them and didn't care. And then they got the Christian evangelical arm in there, pertaining to the babies and concentrating on the death of the babies, and that made more of a headway. And I believe they're doing the same thing with these school shootings as far as gun control.
Yeah, I mean, you can be absolutely right. I mean, I tend to use a whole picture approach and really not worry about certain events, because we know history is on our side. When we look at how many government cover-ups there have been, and then they come back and admit it, and it's pretty much just convincing people that, yeah, they're still lying to us. I don't care who they try to pin the blame on. I want this technology revealed exactly for what it is and what it's been used for. So people are aware. Yeah, so people are aware that this technology does exist. It is technology. You know, whatever they choose to blame, well, they can't blame witches. They're not going to be able to blame, demons or anything you can conjure up from hell in a sci-fi film. I don't really care. This is technology, and I mean, there's a lot more pieces to the puzzle than I was considering. But I guess I'm just gonna take it step by step. V2K now, then probably maybe How They See Me. And tie it all into the Big Brother patent that I found, that I haven't found yet, but I heard of online. So it's pretty weird. I just want this technology that, like, fess up to your crimes, and this is technology, not the people not knowing that this technology exists. It is a matter of national security for the public, because we can get invaded from another country right now. And guess what? I'm sure they can track it. I'm sure they can know if it's coming from Russia with the FCC and the NSA monitoring these airwaves. They'll know exactly where it's coming from and who's doing it. But, we don't as a people, because our government doesn't have this stuff, supposedly. And they're keeping us in the dark to keep us dumb.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Well, I've been at Target 25 years now, and I've been subjected to an incredible amount of different devices and what they can do with these devices, just through my personal experience. And I'll tell you, Angel, it's going to be a war, because these people in power are not going to give these devices up willingly. They want the power, and they know where the power lies. And this is what you're up against. Just a warning,
Yeah.
because they don't want to give this up at all. This is sheer
I-
power over your fellow human being.
I agree, Barbara, and I mean, part of this equipment, I think it's in a centralized place, and I think they're using things like HARP and all these different types of antenna arrays that exist, around the world to transmit these, or probably create an environment where this can be easily used, from different sources. Um, you know, I agree with you 100%. No one's gonna wanna, whoever paid for HARP, they're not gonna want to give that up, So
It's interesting
let's-
to see that 5G works its way into this. I posted a video. I'll grab the link and put it in the chat. But 5G plays a major role in this. 5G is all about
make it clear.
smart grid. It's all smart meters. Everyone's going to be required to have a smart meter. This stuff is really getting scary. And
Yep, I agree.
scared of it, I'm not. But scary, I might move out of the country. I might take Bet up on her offer and move to Australia. Right,
I
Bet?
was thinking of it too, but they've got it down there too.
I don't think they got as bad as we do.
That would be nice.
Oh, Bet's online too. I was hoping she was listening.
Yeah, we're all
I
going to
don't know,
come
I
down
think-
and move in.
I think that
Frank,
Yes.
Frank, Australia is gone. Forget it.
Gone?
France is
Yep.
gone. Sweden is gone.
Yep.
Gone. Yep.
Part of
Either
the
taken
Five
over
Eyes.
by migrants, or the technology or whatever. You're going to have to look hard for a country that's pure and clean. Believe me, maybe an island or something.
Southern Mexico.
South America.
Mexico, listen, I would move there in 30 seconds if it were not for the health care.
Well, and the fact that the drug cartels run the whole place.
Yeah, unfortunately that has happened. But when I've been to Mexico, they're the nicest, finest people.
Oh, they are.
Fun. You can, and I don't know. I love it down there, but it's just very hard when I've got my things going on because of the targeting to move to Mexico.
I hear you.
I hear, but southern Mexico, in fact, who was the one who set up a shop on top of that city of high altitude? I've forgotten. Remember, he came on a few times. I called Derek's, I think, and he talked about this fabulous city, small city, high altitude. Not Mexico City, but South Mexico, like you were saying.
I'd love to know the name of that.
Well, you'll have to ask Derek, I think.
I'll give him a call. Derek was very nice, and he posted our event in his newsletter. I don't know if any of you
I saw
it.
that. That was nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we should all apply for asylum in Russia.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you
I'm
something
serious.
about
The weather
Russia.
is not good.
If you think they're out partying at night at your local bar, they're not. They have a curfew. If you think that they're all walking around on the streets having a good time, they're not. But that's what I've heard. So that could be propaganda to keep us out of there.
Well, what you have to do is get a blog from a Russian person. Search and dig until you find a real Russian blog translated.
Magnus Olson has been there. So Magnus Olson would have a very good cross-section of actually what goes on there. But
I think Poland is very welcoming to us.
he's in Poland as far as I know right now. I use there's a special app that I have to use to get him. And he's in Poland, and as far as I know, that guy on Facebook, V, he is in Poland as well with his whole family. Now, is he ahead of the game? I don't know. Was it worth it? I don't know that either. But I'm going to start looking for plane fare to Australia.
You have to be careful with Australia and New Zealand. You really have to check him out. Read a lot.
Okay.
New Zealand is gone. New Zealand is gone. Susie Dawson, the New Zealander that's in Russia now, she
Yeah.
did a YouTube video on her life in Russia. It was pretty interesting. I watched about half
How
of
is
it.
she? I mean, did she like it?
She loved it.
Okay.
She went in, she took it, she walked down the street, she went into a restaurant and had dinner. She walked around and showed the city, and you know, she's requesting asylum there. So
Okay.
if you want to hunt up her video, go right ahead.
I'm impressed
It's
with
on
Putin.
YouTube.
I'm impressed with Putin, and I'll tell you why. He has got backbone. He has got morality for his people, and that's something that I didn't think in the beginning, because he actually took a lot of money from retirement funds. But you know, his spending budget on defense is 1% of the United States. So
Well,
that's
Frank, he poisons people.
And also,
He
you do look at the.
He poisons people. He
You don't know.
poisons his. He does.
Well, I'm not sure. But you know, the length, the living age, the longevity of Russian men is awful. Just so sad. It's like 58 or something.
Oh God.
Yeah, yeah, they're not very. See, communism is a very dead system. It just doesn't allow anybody to break out. If they're really talented and creative, they cannot break out. You're just stuck in this system.
You know how
And-
communism works? Well,
Yes, I
if
do.
you have, we'll say, a stockade community with a stockade fence and gates, and you have, we'll say, 20 families working inside there. One's a carpenter, one's a mason, one is a writer. And you have meetings, and you can see everyone's eyes. The minute you stop seeing everyone's eyes, communism falls apart, because the trust falls apart. That's
They
why
drink a
communism
lot.
does not work. It works in small what? Communities. Community. It does work, but it does not work in a country. It works in a small area.
They drink a lot over there.
Yeah, the vodka consumption is quite amazing, but it's also like tequila in Mexico. They make it there, and they get it fresh from the pump.
Well, that could constitute the shortness of male lifespan.
Of course it does,
Yeah.
but it's also from despair, from what you just said.
Yep.
If you, and people say, well, communism works. Look, read the ideals of it. Well, I happen to hate the ideals of it, but because I'm a capitalist, I had a small business and I made money by working. And
So do I.
yeah, and I made a profit. And if you make a profit, believe me, people hate you, but that means I could pay the rent, I could feed myself, and pay some hippies who I pulled up off the street to help me make the jewelry back in the 60s. So it worked for me. But it's there a lot of despair because there's no ingenuity, creativity. And if you do have it, they drag you out of school in the first or second grade and you become a ward of the state. The state will pay for you for the rest of your life. But everything you do has to be turned over to the state. And that's what's happening in this country, in case you haven't noticed.
Michelle?
They're taking kids out and stealing their inventions and patents. And
That's true.
Michelle?
I know a
Happening
girl
here,
that
too.
lives in Massachusetts, and she lost a lot through her divorce. Her husband sold a patent to the company, and the company targeted her because she was going to court asking for her share.
I just wanted to ask Michelle a question. Do you still make jewelry?
You talking to Melinda?
Melinda, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was in the 60s, and of course, then I had my acting career. I used the jewelry to support my acting
Do
workshop.
you still make jewelry?
Yeah, I started it up again about 3 years ago. Unfortunately, because of the targeting, they have really made a fool out of me, and I do the best I can.
I still want a quartz pendant.
Well,
Bob,
I told you where to
I
go.
know.
Did you go?
I know, but you said it's not real silver.
Well, okay. What you can do is you can go on Etsy and find out who has quartzes and who works in silver, and tell them you want a personal order. I don't happen to. That's not the kind of jewelry I make. But you need a little craftsperson, an artist to make it for you.
Okay. Just figured I'd.
It's a very good looking crystal. I would get that.
Okay.
I make my own, by the way. I got a bag of 10 crystals for about $9, and then I took copper wire and I went around the crystal and I hang it from the lamps.
Yeah.
Just because I thought that would get rid of the targeting, but of course, not quite.
Okay, to get back to Russia, does anybody else have the inside track on Russia?
And also look at Hungary. I think Hungary is a great bet because they want to break out of the EU. Prague, beautiful city.
Yeah, I like Hungary as well for that reason. I like them because they're Christian. I like that they're putting, they don't want anyone to rip apart their culture.
What to do. And they had the uprising in 1955. They are really strong. And they did not like the Soviet occupation at all. And Hungary and Poland seem to be the only ones that really have put their foot forward these days.
Poland's leaders will not accept this electronic targeting. And
or migrants, hundreds off the boat would not accept them. Well, and the Vatican got very angry.
Mr. Putin put his foot down, and he said, if anybody comes here as an immigrant, they are going to live like Russians, or they're not going to live here. There's not going to be any Sharia law. You remember that? Them trying to use Sharia law in one of our courts?
Well, they get away with it in Minnesota. But do you know they give immigrants off the boat $4,000 to get a house to live, and $1,600 because they came to America? Yeah. I mean, that makes me sick to my stomach when you have homeless by the thousands Americans who.
Makes you sick, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And listen, I have a brother and a half brother, half sister who are half Mexicans. I have nothing against Mexicans. I love them. But I don't think anybody can come here wholesale, just off the boat, thousands, and say, feed me. That makes me very upset. And then all these homeless people who can't get help and can't get psych help. And I don't know. It gets me very upset. I think most of us support the veterans. We want to. But they've been allowed to really destroy themselves, and the administrations have not helped.
Oh, you forgot one thing. The immigrants get our Social Security, too. Did you know that?
Yeah, they get a free Social Security number. But, I don't know. They don't pay taxes.
They get the money, though. Every month they get a Social Security check.
Oh, jeez.
Out of our money?
They get $4,000 a month for living. Now, I would like that. So I wouldn't be sweating nickels at the end of the month, seeing if I'm going to make it.
They should get kicked out on their butts.
Money away from me. These fucking whores are taking all my money. They will break everything in my apartment, so I have to replace it. Refrigerators, car sensors, the whole thing. So I'm broke.
Hey, I just want to make a point.
You have the floor.
If immigrants came in illegally, they're not getting benefits unless there's fraud involved. They're not the only unless it's through some type of program. I don't think any immigrants get aid at all.
I think you're right, Angel.
Yeah, and I mean, if they're illegal, they're not gonna go sign up for benefits.
Right.
And then, and
What
part
about
of
what about the Middle Eastern ones
I wasn't
that
saying
Obama
illegals.
said?
no,
Obama said,
well, that's what I'm saying. If the program refugees, they may get some help, right? They're refugees.
yeah,
Yeah.
but they're not refugees. I mean, they're economic refugees. They're coming from
It depends. It depends. Yeah. Well, some people get recruited from other countries to come here and work because we don't have, I guess, that skill set.
Well, if you're talking about from India, you are correct. They want young computer whizzes from India and some of the other countries. You're right, Southeastern Asia. And because they haven't educated the Americans as they should have been doing for the last 20 years. So we don't have the skill set. You're right. We don't even have people who are fit to be in the army anymore. They're so fat, the young men, and out of shape. So we've let this country, or somebody has let this country fall down big time.
Can I say something here?
Of course. Not my call.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Yeah, it's me. I eventually got through. I had so much harassment the other day, I was never ever going to get through. Okay. Here's the thing. Just backing up a bit about Russia. Okay, I go along with what Frank says, and as a matter of fact, I've been doing research to try and get asylum in America, in Russia, because I feel safer with bears and wolves than I do with these perps and the military around me that really wants me quite dead. Okay, so the thing is, you know, Putin was he was the big chief of the KGB. Okay, that's the background to Putin. He has come a hell of a long way. He really is a man of his people. He really does care about what happens in the world.
Yes,
and this
he does.
comes through. Yeah, this comes through very much in the news, you know. He is one of the people that is going around, well, he's the only, you know, what should we say, ruler in Russia, who is actually going around personally, and he's educating his students about artificial intelligence and the uses of it to destroy humanity and how to be careful of that, because he does not agree with the West, okay? He does not agree with the West. And he's particularly pointing out the United States for what's happening with warfares and one thing and others. He's made plain and open statements that Russia is not a country of war. And if you look to its history, it really typically is not a country of war. Okay? There's the other big plus about Russia. Hell, there's a long way to get away from people. You know, I mean, Siberia is huge. It's got these massive mountains. You know, truly, I feel safer with the war. Pardon? Siberia is, yeah, it's part of the Russian territory.
Very cold.
Yeah, and as far as I'm concerned, you know, I really, I've done a lot of studies on this, and I'm not going to say sort of, you know, as a scientist or anything like that. Over the years, because I've lost family in wars and stuff like that, and I've watched actual original documentation and one thing or another, I've got a fair background on some of this stuff. But I'm by no means an expert. But, you know, if you just track Putin, you know, from the time that he's been in power, what's he been in power now, 18 years? It's a long time. His people are happy. You know, basically they're happy. We have a concept of, you know, dictatorship and one thing or another. But, you know, they don't look unhappy to me. They don't seem to be having the hassles that we're having with a government that wants to totally destroy us, you know, because they want a new world order. Putin actually warned Trump via a news media article about the new world order. He actually does not want it. He is fighting against it. And, you know, it needs to be brought out into the open because, you know,
right.
Our government, everything that goes wrong is Russia. Every single thing. It starts with Russia. How the hell Putin ever holds his temper, I do not know. But he is a man who has absolute control over himself. And he is a great thinker. And I have great admiration for him. And that's my rant for the day on Russia. And if I get a chance to put my babies on board of something that I can get them over to Russia with me, they will be going and I will be going, because I will not go without them.
So,
okay, so
Bet, you agree that Australia is not a good place to go?
it's a hellhole.
Okay.
No, it's
really,
you know, I want to point you in the direction again of a documentary that was done on a program that's called Background Briefing. Okay, now that's a radio show, and it's got various, you know, little shows within it, and it also covered on the 21st of August last year, it covered the issue of the base, which is a United States military base in Central Australia. It's called Pine Gap. Now, you've probably heard of it.
Yes.
Okay, Pine Gap. Now, this is really interesting from a historical point of view. We had a prime minister in 1967. It was actually not that long after JFK's assassination. LBJ took over, and so we had this prime minister, Harold Holt. I don't know whether you've ever heard of him, but anyway, he was the one that was a great swimmer, charismatic sort of character, attracted a lot of females, I believe. Not always desirable, but, you know, I mean, he was a man's man. And he went out, he used to go every day for a swim in the sea, and one day he stepped out, and I think it was just before Christmas, around about 16th, 17th of December. And he stepped into the sea, never to be seen again. Okay? Now, one of the big things with Australia at that point in time was that Harold Holt, LBJ was negotiating with Harold Holt to actually establish Pine Gap in Central Australia. Okay? Harold Holt didn't want it. He did not want it. He fought against it. It was in his briefs. I believe there was some information in his briefcase that was left behind. Okay? And the thing is that he never wanted it, but it came anyway. So that Pine Gap has been, you know, in Australia for so many decades now. It's part of the asset base, I think. It is used for monitoring every phone call, every email, everything. It is a military source to provide America with targeting arrangements. It is huge, and the Australian people know almost, I'd say all of the Australian people know not very much about Pine Gap. They may know the name, but I don't think they know the activities involved there. Now, that broadcast opens up the issue of Pine Gap, the base. And obviously it's manned to some degree by American personnel, some of who have left because they know exclusively what's going on with the information that's being provided from the you know, the Australian community, and actually I believe it extends overseas too, because, you know, America's great for, and please don't take it that I'm against Americans. I'm not. I actually love the American people. I think they have a great mentality most of the time. I've worked with them. I've had friends, yeah, so I feel very close with American people. But go and source this documentary, this 1 hour long history on Pine Gap and what's going on, and just, it will horrify you. I mean, if you thought that your lives were private, I have news for you. But Australia, well, it's only 24 million people. It's just got to 24 million people, just over, I think now. It needs allies. You know, we're an isolated landmass, really, and it needs allies. You know, and so it has, you know, it's done the deal. It's done the deal with the USA. Yeah, it's part of the cabal. It's part of the everything. It isn't exclusive. In fact, I'd go one step further. Because we're a small community, I think this issue here with control is probably worse than it is in the USA. It's becoming that way. It may not be obvious, but it's becoming that way. We have, I don't know whether you have this in the United States, but this is a new introduction. It's a law, it's, how can I call it? Oh, shush puppy. The pup's going off. She doesn't like the pup across the road. Okay, there's a particular type of mental issue associated with this particular act. Okay, it's called, and it's actually orchestrated through the local police force. Okay, it is called being a fixated person. Do you have that? Do you have that kind of a problem in America where, you know, a police officer, you know, may possibly even be having discussions with you, and and if they think that you're a bit, you know, not their type of thing, you can be, you know, kind of hauled away on a fixated person charge.
Right.
I mean,
they do that here too. They have that here too. I've read about that a couple of times.
Well, I tell you what, this is, you know, this is just another one of the, you know, control methods. I mean, this is why I'm onto the mental health side of it, and I'm spreading this word no matter what sort of contact I have, basically. If I get an email from somebody, I'm putting the links to anti-psychiatry and psychiatric fraud PDF and what have you. Whether they like it, whether they don't, it's under their nose, you know. I can't see that I would do any good trying to put an advertisement in the newspaper, because everybody just use it to light up their Barbies, you know?
How they manipulate that is if you know the name of your perp, like I do. I know the person who put me on this program. I know the person who helped him. And if you are like, I've written about this guy for years, because I know exactly when it happened and who did it, that they would consider that a fixated person.
Okay, well, look, here's the thing. I'll give you an example of an experience that I had a couple of years ago now. Okay, they've been busting down my fences, breaking into my home, doing all the usual sort of perpetry, and they've organized to try and get me killed too in my little truck that I had. You know, manipulating the brakes and stuff like that, and all sorts of things. Okay, horror story. But they started smashing down the fence posts in my paddock, which means that my animals, you know, could get tangled up in wire, all sorts of things like this, okay? And you could see that there was still enough meat in the pole for it to be able to stand up for, you know, quite some time later. And here they were knocking these things down. So, you know, this was at the stage where the overt military-style targeting had not begun. Okay, I'd had harassment for years for various, over various things. But anyway, getting back to the real story. Okay, so I'd had enough. You know, here I am. I've got another 2 fences down, and I phoned the police assistance line and asked them if they would send someone out tomorrow. I was actually just about ready to feed animals, so it was nearly dark, and this was in winter. Could they please send someone out? I needed them to come out during the day so that they could see and walk around my property and see exactly what was going on. Okay, and would they please ask the officers that were coming to actually just find me so that I could unlock the gate for them to come through, because I keep my gate locked 24/7. Nobody gets in here. Nobody comes here. I mean, they climb over the fence, that's sure. But I'm talking about there's no official way of getting onto my place unless they phone me. Okay, so I had these 2 brawny guys turn up, you know, and the one guy didn't even want to drive through the gate. He wanted to park his car out like 80 meters away from the house. And I said, come on, and you had this look on his face, but you know how you pick up that iciness, that distance, that, you know, blocking off mentality that you're dealing with. And so, you know, your friendliness sort of changes very rapidly under those conditions. Then I start giving them this, the background to this, and I said, you know, I want you to come over and have a look at this particular pole in the paddock. The one guy just stood there and looked down at his boots. I thought, oh, he's telling me he doesn't want to get his boots dirty. But they didn't come the following day. They came just on dark, right? Just on dark. So they didn't follow instructions anyway. Didn't phone me to open the gate. So here I am. I'm having to drop the feeds, thinking they're coming tomorrow morning, and they're not. Okay, so then we get into it, and I'm saying, well, you know, you need to come over. I wanted you to come tomorrow morning because I need you to have a look at how they're accessing my property and what's happening, because, you know, they're coming through the forest and down, and you need to see this. Anyway, one thing led to another. This one guy, he turns around and he says to me, and fortunately I was able to, you know, not be kind of, how can I say, blown away by it. I'm probably too tired to be. He said, oh, have you had a mental assessment? And I just looked at him and said, a mental assessment? He said, yeah. I said, my brother was administrator of a psychiatric hospital in Canada.
Why didn't you turn to him and say to him, why are you such a corrupt Nazi?
Because I didn't know it was Nazism. I didn't know at that stage this was Nazism. I didn't know, right? It wasn't overt to that degree. I just knew that there were things happening around me that were just gaining speed, if you like.
I thought this just happened. I thought this just happened.
No, this is a couple of years ago. I mean, I've been targeted for a long time. I just didn't realize it, and the more that I go down the track, I realize just how far back this stuff goes. But you see, I'm very focused on developing my business, focused on you know, my life, my animals, and yeah, too much to do.
But don't they want your property to link up?
No, they want my insurance policy. No, they want my insurance policy. But that's the whole military story. That's the contractor that had his own insurance company. He's supposed to be dead now, but I don't believe it. But anyway, getting back to the story. So he goes, it goes on about this mental assessment thing. So I gave him this spiel. My brother was an administrator of a psychiatric hospital. I think if there had been any problems with my health mentally, that I would have known about this a long time ago. And then he said, because I think that you're the problem. So I just started laughing. Just kind of, you know, I think they got more of a shock out of that than me actually, you know, blowing off expletives in their way. I just, you know, I sort of, basically, I was kind of like, are you kidding me? And I said to him, okay, did you look at my file on what's been happening here before you came out? No. And I'd never seen these people or known about them ever, you know, no interaction whatsoever. And I said, did you look at my file? No. Okay, so you don't even know what's been going on here for the last, what, 19 years? And, you know, it got quite sort of glum, and but you know, the thing that got me the most out of this interaction with them was the fact that they were right in my personal space. They were within an arm's distance, you know, if less, probably even less than that, because they were big guys, you know, but they were right in my space. There was one on either side of me, and I actually said to them, look, I'm not taking you inside because the place is bugged. So they were happy to stand outside and chat, and it was dark, you know. This was not a friendly, you know, Mr. Plod type of situation, and I felt desperately threatened. I actually phoned the police department because I asked for their name. They didn't show badges, they didn't give numbers, and I was too, how can I say, too new to, you know, I didn't even know what really a TI was, I don't think, in those days. I was starting to get deep suspicions of vandalism, but I was not on top of this game. And so I felt very uncomfortable. When I asked for what their names were again, as they were walking down the driveway, we already gave you our name. And I remembered their first names, but anyway, I ended up phoning the police, their police office, and the guy groaned actually when I said, oh, by the way, the 2 thugs that you sent out to my place, what are their names, please? I want their first name, I want their surnames. And don't ever send them to my place again, or I will phone the AFP. You know, the guy went, oh, God, you know, like this over the phone. But that's what happened to me. That was the first sort of thing of this sort of mental issue stuff. And I thought, what are they doing? You see, I wasn't in the picture. I must tell you, over the last couple of years, man, I should have an honorary doctorate for the studies I've done on this stuff. You know, I mean, seriously, nothing short of 8 hours a day, every day of the week, for something like 15 months, you know, trying to get a grip on this because I don't have any other resources around me. It's me. I'm it. And I don't like it, but, you know, I had no one to turn to. And, you know, even to the point sorry, it's not this year, last year, I've got these burn marks on my walls, you know, the kind of vandalism that's taken place when I've been out of the property, which I haven't been off for almost 10 months now.
One of our, Dr. Matthew Aaron, who frequents this call,
yes,
was in Canada, and he had a microwave beam on his room that was so strong that it left impressions in the glass. I have those.
Oh, what?
I have those impressions on our site. They resemble a drawing that Matthew found, and it is actually a pattern of a microwave unit that they use. So it melted the glass. So
Jesus Christ!
He got out of there with his butt and came down here. So I apparently it's a lot better here than it is in Canada.
You don't hear very much from Canada, though, do you? It's sort of it's more underground than the USA, and Australia is definitely you know, a rabbit warren. I think that you know, it's purported to be over 100,000 TIs in Australia. Now, when you compare that, you know, per capita, it's much higher than the USA. Much higher. You've got 500,000 plus in the USA as TIs, and Australia's got, you know, 100,000 plus, and we're only 24 million. You know, it does take a lot. I mean, all you need is 100 million, and you've got 100 million people, and you've got 4 times the number of TIs. I mean, they're all probably nervously hiding behind the sheep. God knows what. They may even have, you know, decided to inhabit the, you know, the cave system in Australia. They're probably remotely in some place trying to hide out. But yeah, no, there's no support here. It is not good. In fact, you know something, I have the feeling, and this is a bad feeling, that I'm the only one that's the public enemy in New South Wales regarding this. Because I cannot find another TI in New South Wales. I think there was one in Canberra.
There are some TIs in Australia.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, Robert Duncan made a video in Australia, and there are a couple of sites on Facebook, Australians. So I will go into Facebook and find out who they are and where they are and let you know.
Well, that's great because, you know, Karen Melton Stewart?
Yes, very well.
Yeah, right, okay, she's, we're in contact with each other via Facebook at the moment. I'm trying to dump Facebook. Yeah, it is great. She's managed to send, I think it is, 2 my way, and of course, I was actually, through their organisation, also trying to make contact with Helen Sigournez. but that didn't work out. And so, you know, I have two people that essentially, the one was such a bad mouther that Karen tried to, you know, put him in his place and calm him down and what have you, that I actually removed myself from the group. And I told Karen, I'm not dealing with that. There's enough for TIs to do dealing with their own problems, and I don't think we need somebody who's, you know, out there foul-mouthing everybody,
No.
you know, because they're in a situation and they're hurting and they feel that they can relate to their fellow man in the country with this kind of it's basically emotional abuse anyway, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just kind of like, yeah, this is a weird place. Look, I phoned the police regarding this insurance thing. You're not going to believe this because I'm still trying to work out, and maybe somebody in the meeting might be able to put me on the right track here. I don't know how they've done it. It's obviously been on one of my days a couple of years ago when I used to go out shopping. I had the luxury of being able to put shoes on, walk out and drive the car and go and do shopping personally, which I cannot do anymore because the safety here is just, I just can't allow it. You know, I'm down to no shoes basically in the paddock. But anyway, Woolies donated a pair to me through the online grocery store, so that worked out okay. It's keeping me going for a couple of months. Anyway, I had a solar hot water system that works nicely, but I bought it as a second-hand unit, and I didn't realize you have to service the tanks. So guess what? It eventually broke down, and the roof came off the house one night when I was outside feeding horses. So the insurance company had to come and replace the roof, and at that stage the guys actually took the tank and the collectors off. And then they knew that it had already been disconnected and stuff, and they said, do you want us to connect this tank up again? And I said, no, but look, put the collectors back and the tank there, just so that it looks like it's a complete thing, not to fool anybody, but it's sort of, at least it's in situ, and if I get the chance of a second-hand tank again, it can just go straight in place. Okay, so it's never connected up. I was on the roof probably about 18 months ago, I guess, and I was cleaning out the gutters. And I'd noticed this thing when I was feeding out with the animals. I was looking at the skyline, and I thought, that looks like a pipe that's connected up there. Now, I already have the old electrical system back installed, you know, for the hot water. So I don't need the solar anyway. And so when I went to clean these gutters, I thought, I better go and check. You know something? Here we are. We've got the whole thing all connected up again. And I started scratching my head about this lot and, you know, trying to come with some logical conclusion. And then I started, you know how you do, you get a focus on things, and so you make a mental note, you're going to go around and check various things to check out what's going on. Okay, so the electrical hot water system has an outlet pipe. You know how when it gets to a certain temperature, then it releases water so the whole thing doesn't explode. So fresh water then comes into it and keeps the temperature, you know, at a certain level. Okay, so I'm thinking, well, what the hell's going on here? And I went round to where the outlet pipe was for the electric water system. And I could see, I mean, you know, I've been on properties for decades, so I'm, you know, I'm a bit of a tomboy actually. I'm looking at this outlet pipe that's near my water pump, and there's no trace of any water coming from there. For so long, it's dry and it's arid, you know. I'm thinking, well, where? And I can hear the pump going on periodically, so I know it's not the same water that's being reheated and da-da-da. And I'm mystified. So I start thinking, well, what the hell is the purpose of this thing? Is the water from the electric tank that spurts out actually being recycled into the tank above, because the interesting thing is that when I was up there checking this tank and this new pipe work and electrical connection and what have you, that in fact I took the one of the taps off, and so there was water in there, and it started flowing down the roof. So I obviously put the thing back again, and but I have not been able to work this out. And I had the insurance company come because these burns on the wall, and the fact that I'm losing electrical appliances at the rate of knots, basically, brand new ones and one thing and another, and lights going. And I tried to change a fluorescent light in the kitchen over the sink and got a massive electric shock. And but there's these sort of, they look like clamp marks outside in the sunroom area, and I don't have lights that actually dangle from the ceiling. Mine are all around. I mean, this is a very cheap and affordable type of a house when it went up. And so all the lights and the wiring goes around the walls, doesn't come over the ceiling. Oh dear, so these burn marks, and then I'm losing appliances, and you know, of course by this stage I realise that I'm being fired on as well, and one thing or another. I'm starting to take extreme note of everything.
Do you have targets that are actually formed groups in Australia that you know about? I mean, not so much targets around you, but targets period. Do you have any targets?
We have, I think I know of about 3 or 4, but they're not in my state anyway. There are a couple in Victoria. There's one I know of in Western Australia. But, you know, they're a shy mob. I must tell you, they're a very shy mob. They're like a nervous bunch of sheep. And sorry, I have to laugh because, you know, sometimes when we get onto this serious type stuff, it's my only relief. It's the way that sort of, you know, diffuses my stress. Yeah, so no, there are not a lot of them coming out of the woodwork. But here's an interesting fact, and you may be able to get me information. Anyone in the group can get me information on this. Okay, a few years ago, when Julian Gillard was Prime Minister, okay, there was a gallant civil rights lawyer who was actually taking her to task, and I believe he got as far as issuing a court order for this particular TI. And I can backtrack, but it's going to be a hard job. It's one of my computers is blitzed. Anyway, the number that he quoted for this TI was 104,000 ? And he quoted this number in the papers, in the actual serving of the papers to her. Now, he never followed through, and he was accused of being a perp eventually and one thing or another. But the fact that it got to the 104,000, and that's going back a few years, I'm just, you know, I mean, we could be well over that number since then. I mean, this thing has gained gravity. It really has. But they're not coming out of the woodwork. I'd say that they've had the slap on the hand by the first responders, and they're all very shy now. And I'm shy too. But the thing is that with my background in compliance and stuff like that, and having been a case manager too for part of my life, I realized the value of not shoveling this stuff under the carpet. Okay, so I'm one of the brave or the stupid, whichever variety you want to go with, or a combination of both. You know, and it was when I was doing some of my research, probably about 15 months ago, that I came across an article that had been put up by a TI in Facebook. Now, I use Facebook only, or I used to use it only for promoting animal causes, and I'm an animal advocate, and I, you know, do a lot of legwork and trying to get petitions going, not going, but supporting them, putting my 2 bobs worth in so that they gain a bit of impact. And it's through being, on Facebook that I actually sourced this, unwittingly sourced this document. And it showed all the steps of the TI and the da-da-da-da-da, and it was about Australia. And there were comments like one Australian guy had moved over to, it wasn't Russia, unfortunately, moved over to, I think it was Germany. Because I don't think Germany is allowed to, it doesn't support this targeting stuff either. Mind you, with neo-Nazi, I don't know that I feel totally comfortable with being there. Yeah, so it's sort of, I mean, I'm not, with this tank thing, I'm not sure what is going on. Okay, so come back to that. I don't know, maybe someone's got some ideas about
smoking.
Hello.
Smoking a cigarette at a zoo. Just look, you can see Odin puffing away like an experienced smoker. He knows what to do. It's crazy. A visitor threw the lit cigarette at the primates enclosure in Indonesia. Officials say he likely learned how to smoke from watching humans. Isn't that crazy?
But who gave him the cigarette? I don't know, but they're hassling him. He has to stand outside the building when he smokes now. People look down on him. I mean...
Hi, would you like to speak?
Final question.
Yeah, look, there's a radio show running in the background.
Yeah.
It's just suddenly started. Is that normal?
I think she wants to speak or something. Anyway, we're getting up towards closing time. Ordinarily, if it wasn't Linda, I would run until midnight anyway, but Linda's got a call at 9 o'clock, so we'll be ending in probably about 5 minutes or so.
Okay. Well, sorry to hog the last part of your show, but if anybody does know, can make sense out of this issue of the tank, the solar hot water tank being attached to the, in some way, the water system and obviously the electric water system, I would be so grateful to know that.
I will give you a hand with that.
Does Beth have Linda's call number ID also, so in case she wants to go on over there?
Yeah, sure. Yep. Hold on.
Who's Linda? Sorry, I'm sort of really in the dark. Sorry?
Hold on a second. Let me...
You'll like her. That's a good point, HC. You'll like her. I think you'll like her show, Beth, her call.
Yeah.
You know, the problem for me is I can try like crazy to get the to get onto things, and I mean, like, I've had a terrible week.
The phone number is 724.
Okay. Just one moment. Just one moment. I need to get a pen because I'm attached to the wall with the charger on the phone. I won't be a moment.
Let me know when you're ready.
Okay, hang on. Why is it every pen that you get just does not want to work? Tell me that. Tell me that. Answer the question.
Well, Beth's getting her pens, Frank. I just want to say thanks for the call, and I hope you continue to feel good after your surgery.
Oh, I feel like $1 million. Thank you so much.
I think you lie a lot too.
No, I do. I do. I feel great.
That's fantastic.
You know what it is? I met a PHP, my new physician, and she's 28 years old. Right out of school, and she is very thorough. And she put me through a battery of tests, and she's the one. I give her credit for actually saving my life because it was 94% blocked. So that doesn't leave much. So my thinking has changed. It's much faster. I can do things faster. God, I can shovel snow and not even break a sweat.
Dear heavens above. You're going back to your youth. I
feel like 21. I feel like 21. I really do.
Oh, that is fantastic. That is great. There's just one thing I'd like to say to the group while they're together, because I only surreptitiously found out that you had a heart operation. I come in very late on this.
No, it's not a heart operation. It was a carotid artery, the one in your neck.
Ah, so did you have a stent put in?
No, they cut it open and cleaned it out. I refuse to have anything to do with stents. Because
that's a good idea. Yeah, I lost a brother that way. Okay.
Why, Frank? Because I'm going in for an angioplasty on Thursday for my leg.
Yeah.
Oh.
And you say stents are bad?
Well, I don't like stents because stents are not normal. They are, I think, surgical grade stainless mesh or titanium mesh. And what happens is they become an attractor of particulate.
Yeah, they can.
And they actually do the same thing all over again. And I had a friend who had stents that were in the arteries that were feeding his heart. And the end result was all the stents failed, and he had one last artery feeding his heart. And so the whole back portion of his heart physically died, and he was in a very precarious situation. It was done by a doctor down south. If you want an operation like that, come to New England, come to Boston, because my father died because of a doctor down there in Florida.
Okay, I just want to get this message across if I can, because this is desperately important. This is about blood pressure, okay? And I have a heart murmur, and I was on blood pressure medication going backwards and had all sorts of things, but I won't go into too much of that because I don't want to, number one, and number two, there's no time. There is, in my research to actually resolve a health issue that I ended up going to hospital for, the emergency room, I discovered that there's a product in the BP medication that is very, very dangerous. Not only dangerous, but it actually causes you to seize up in so many areas. I'll give you the name of it. It's called amlodipine. Amlodipine, spelled A for apple, M for Mary, L for Leslie, O for orange, D for Donny, I for indigo, P for Peter or Paul, I for indigo, N for Nelly, E for whatever, egg. Amlodipine. If you have got that in your blood pressure medication, it is banned in the Netherlands. It's banned in several countries. I had it in my BP meds. I actually downed the meds. I don't actually take any meds at all for any kind of problems. I use natural therapies, but I make actually. Okay, so amlodipine, and you do not go off it quickly. Okay, you need to wean yourself off it because there can be side effects if you try to do it cold turkey.
What's the name?
That's amlodipine. Amlodipine. Yeah.
Okay.
AMLODIPINE. Amlodipine.
I like to say about stents. I think the movie The Great Cholesterol Cover-Up talks about stents. But it's either that or another documentary I heard that they were worthless. So anyway, thought I'd throw that in.
Yeah, I will never
Well,
get
here's something else you might want to know. Stay away from implants, teeth implants. Okay?
What's your reason?
They are dangerous. They are dangerous, dangerous. Go and do a search on them. You will be amazed at the stuff that comes up. They actually can cause breast cancer, for starters. It's because of the biofilm and so on that's involved with because when you have implants, you usually have your jaw drilled to accept a foreign article. Okay, your tooth, is already dead, and it's, and it's gone, and it needs to be removed from the body. I mean, if you believe in the natural, then you believe the fact of all this false stuff inside your body. You've already explained that by the stent thing. It's not a good, and it sets up all sorts of problems for your system. But there's a lot of information out there, but it's all, unless you actually are given the tip-off, you're not going to go exploring this.
They're porcelain, aren't they?
Pardon?
Aren't they porcelain?
That's only the crown.
I mean, of a real implant that snaps in.
Yeah, it's titanium or titanium or stainless steel. Yeah.
Titanium post
yes.
in a porcelain.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, since I can't afford implants.
So they're not all porcelain. And it really wouldn't matter anyway, because the problem is the biofilm. You just don't need any little bits and pieces being left behind, because anything like that can trigger all sorts of problems. And here's a couple of websites for you. I'd like everybody to get these down if they can. And do not be misled, please, by the title of the website. One is called cancertutor.com. So cancer, C-A-N-C-E-R, tutor, T-U-T-O-R.com. It covers everything, from cancer through to diabetes. It's a whole natural thing. This is a website that was developed by professional doctors who believe in the alternative med side. Okay. The other one I think I've given to you before. You need to take this down too. You can do broad searches and come up with the actual URLs, or the URLs as you call them in America. And it is called Genesis 2. So Genesis, like in the Bible, 2. You can put that number 2, or you can put the 2 I's. Church of Health and Healing. Okay. Now it is a non-religious church. It's the old-fashioned interpretation of church, which was a gathering of people. It has nothing to do with denominational stuff or religion. Okay, that is also a massive area for self-learning. I actually used alternative meds that saved my life. I had Lyme disease, with chronic Lyme disease, with co-infections and stuff like that, and I started off researching that, and because the doctors fouled it up for me, really terrible. But anyway, the thing is that if you have those 2 websites, you cannot go wrong. You can order the products, even though the one with Genesis 2, Church of Health and Healing, has had to go overseas because the FDA was trying to murder everybody who was, trying to get this product out there, because it really, really works. And in actual fact, I treat my own rainwater tank, water that we drink for the animals and stuff like that. I treat my animals with this stuff. I make my own products from their raw materials. It will save you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. And also, you will get an education that you cannot believe was out there. And it leads you into all sorts of other fantastic stuff. And I'll give you an example, just one quick example. Okay, the product that I make, you can develop it into a couple of forms. Okay, I was out doing the ride-on mowing at the time when I used to do ride-on mowing. The place looks like a jungle now. And I had these wasps that were near the shed, and I knew about them, but like everything else in my life, I have to do some things at 100 miles an hour, and I forget things, and I was already under the program and didn't know it then. And I was doing it last minute at night, so I went flying past this wasp nest, and the next thing is, the fumes the wasp said, "We're not having this," and they attacked me around the head. Oh, dear God. And my lips swelled up, my nose was swelling up, I had pain around my eyes, and I just headed straight over to the house, and I got my little spray bottle out of this stuff that I kept on hand, and I sprayed myself all over where I'd been attacked. You will not believe this, in 15 minutes the whole thing was over. There wasn't even a swelling. and that was from multiple wasp attacks. Okay, so this isn't play around stuff. This isn't orange juice and vodka. This is not, you know, something that you play with. This stuff is serious. It's alternative medicine. You don't abuse it. You don't ignore it. And you just, you know, get in there and you can use so many protocols that are so cheap. They're household things most of the time. And you will get a great benefit out of that. So if there's anything I can leave behind in this world, it will be go to the websites for alternative medicine. I mean, the serious ones. The ones that I've just given you will drive you into other areas if you need to go there. Okay? So with that little bit, I wish you all a great week. I need to take the rest of that number down. I got 724 and I got no further. Hello.
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 Take care, Beth. Thanks for all the info.
Yes.
Oh, look, it's the only thing I can do. I mean, you know, I'm not there physically to do anything for anyone, so I have to use the big mouse, you know. Okay, 724 for Linda. I need the number. I need the number. Linda's number.
It's in the chat.
Oh, okay. Can I download that chat or not?
Yeah, you can go right into it.
Okay. All right. Well, all the best to everybody, and yeah, keep on getting stronger and stronger and stronger, Frank. Yes.
Thank
Okay,
you,
my
Frank.
friend.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Thank you.
Listen, you look at Richie from Boston, since Barbara's so friggin' stubborn, it's going to cost her her life one day. Not necessarily with chemtrails, but something.
She
Anyway.
is getting really nasty lately.
Well, she has a closed mind, and you know we deal with those people like our parents did.
Yeah.
Until you got them to open it by hitting them on the head with a frying pan or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, you know, you can only lead a horse to water.
Yeah.
And I hope he doesn't ask for vodka, because all he's going to get is water, pure water.
That's it.
All right, sweetie. Thank you so much.
Good night.
And thank you, Beth, very much.
God bless.
I know.
God bless all TIs.
It's a pleasure. I just, you know, that's the only thing I can do is contribute to people's, you know, give them information. I can't do anything else. I can't make them do it. But
No, Australia's a huge country. Do you live on the Perth side or the Sydney side?
no, I live on the Sydney side, sweetie. I live near a place called Port Macquarie, which was a penal colony. Oh,
Yes,
geez.
well, all of Australia was a penal colonies. If you,
we moved to
Yeah,
that's what we
but
were
I'm not
taught.
just to help you out here, I'm not Australian. I'm actually a British national.
Oh, well, you got the dialects perfect. Perfect.
Me, the Australian one. Have I really?
Actress and the
interrupt
Australian
for-
dialect is the hardest thing in the world
Ladies,
to learn.
Can I interrupt for a minute? Can I
Sure.
just ask Frank a question before he leaves?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Frank,
Yeah.
I have been talking to you about the 5 eyes for a long time now. Do you recall me
The five-
mentioning that?
The 5 eyes. Yeah, I remember that.
Okay. I think, I don't know what's going on, but nobody listens to me. And
listen.
people don't want to listen to me, and I don't know why. Because
That's
I think the information that I have is solid, technical, and it's really good information. I never try to give anybody any disinformation that I'm not totally, never. Anyway, I'm wondering, because one of the things clued me in, you had asked her if if there was, I think it was the targeting there, or how it was to live there. And she said it was a hellhole.
Yeah.
And that
That's
kind
right.
of clued me into the fact that I've been telling you that Australia is also severely targeted because it's one of the 5 eyes. New Zealand, Australia, Canada, the United States, and the UK called the Five Eyes. They have a special NSA relationship. So the targeting here would be the same as the targeting there. I just thought I'd jump that in.
Okay.
Sorry, everybody. Huh?
Thank you so much.
I hope that didn't turn your brain to mush.
No. God bless. God bless all TIs all over the world.
Thank you, Frank.
Love you all. Good night.